Welcome to the Dairy News and Views podcast, a production of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Dairy Team. Our podcast covers current educational, research, and industry tools available for your operation to manage healthy cows and calves while producing the highest quality dairy products. Welcome to Dairy News and Views from the ISU Dairy Team. This is your trusted source for timely updates, expert insights, and practical tips for the dairy community. I'm your host, Jen Bentley, Dairy Field Specialist with ISU Extension and Outreach, along with Gail Carpenter, our State Extension Dairy Specialist. So whether you're on the farm, in the barn, or on the road, we're glad you're tuning in. So thanks for being on, Gail.
Anytime, Jen. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so in this episode, we're joined by Dr. Shelby Gruss, our forage extension specialist at Iowa State University. And today we're going to be talking about how corn diseases this season could impact silage quality. So that's a very timely topic as harvest season is upon us already. So let's dive into the conversation. Welcome, Shelby.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Shelby, we've seen some variable conditions this year, right? We've had some really hot weather and really wet conditions across much of Iowa. And so this poses a lot of challenges as we come into harvest season. And so what are you seeing out in the field as a result of this?
So the hot weather, the rain, basically abundance of temperatures that corn just likes to grow in. We've seen a few different things going on. One of the things we've seen is called tassel wrap. It's kind of an unusual one that we haven't seen. We've actually talked about this, I believe, on the channel just a few weeks ago. But another thing that we're seeing is a lot of disease pressures coming in, particularly southern rust. It loves high temperatures, it likes moisture. And when it came in early July, because it's windborne and it has to be blown in every year, we've just seen an explosion in it across the state. And so that's been one of the big challenges that a lot of the crops team have been hearing about throughout this last month or so, and whether to spray, when to spray, and things like that.
So what is southern rust? We talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but we have common rust and southern rust. Are there other types of rust besides those two? Talk to me about rust.
There are other types. I am not a plant pathologist, so I'm gonna just stay away from what the other ones are. But common rust and southern rust are the two that we really see in corn. Common rust is as the name suggests, it's common. We see it a lot. It's not super aggressive. We normally don't see too much problems with it. And then southern rust is something that it's kind of a little bit newer to the state, or not really newer, I shouldn't say, but like we don't see it as consistently in the state in severe cases. But this year, southern rust came in from the south. It's windborne, comes up. And some of the differences you're going to see in your field with southern rust versus like common rust is common rust, typically the pustules on it are elongated. They're kind of brown to red. They have some jagged edges, where southern rust, what you're going to start to see are these circular pustules more or less, and they're going to be more orangish to red. And typically southern rust also occurs more on the top part of the leaf, not on both sides, where common rust, you'll see it on both sides of the leaf. Common rust is, like I said, super aggressive, thrives in really warm temperatures and in moisture. And so we've had really the perfect conditions for it this year to just explode. A article that Allison Robertson put on, our plant pathologist specialist, just in early July and August to August, she's like, you saw it in the state early July, and next thing you know, it's just gone crazy. It has a very fast life cycle. I think like almost a week before those pustules start to form spores and are ready to spread. So just can go get out of hand very quickly.
And are you seeing it across the state, or is there certain pockets of Iowa that are seeing more or less of it?
It's pretty much across the state. A lot of people have seen it. I mean, it's pretty obvious to know when you start walking through your field and you come out and you're covered in orange stuff. You're covered in some of this rust that's getting seen throughout the state.
Yeah. So Shelby, a couple weeks ago, my yard turned orange, my grass turned orange, and I came back in and my shoes were always like covered in this orange stuff, right? My shoes look like a Cheeto. Is yes. Did I have southern rust in my yard, or do I have southern rust in my yard?
You have a rust in your yard. I will not say that you have southern rust. I'm not 100% sure on that. But typically, when we start seeing rust getting transported to our yards, we probably have some pretty severe cases out in the fields. My dog, she looked like her legs looked like a Cheeto. She would just go through and it'd just go poof of spores coming out. So very thick this year. Lots of rust out there.
And is
So what
there ways that they can prevent it or manage it? Or is it just something you have to kind of manage after harvest?
Yeah, there are fungicides out there that we could be using to help alleviate some of it, but throughout the state, we've already progressed in our corn very, very quickly. So most likely it's a little too late to do anything at this point. A lot of research is going into looking at what fungicides are more better at controlling rust or southern rust than others. So there's a lot of good data out there. The Crop Protection Network, they put out a lot of good information on that. But with especially corn silage, I know a lot of choppers are getting up and ready to run right now. And so there's just not a window to get in there and to get it sprayed and to get it controlled.
so what's it actually doing to the plant besides turning it orange?
So what it's doing to the plant is basically it's causing what we would see for like silage. It's causing early dry down. The plant's going to have a hard time filling the grain because it's causing damage to the leaves, particularly when we see damage above the ear leaf. If we start seeing it getting up into that upper canopy, we're going to have really hard time filling grain. So we're going to see yield loss in grain production. The plant's going to be kind of progressing a little faster in the sense that we're going to have some early dry down. And so in a silage setting, we need to be keeping an eye on how bad our rust is, because if we have considerable amount of rust, we should be thinking about, okay, when do I really need to get out there? Because it could be a few days earlier than or a week earlier than what I'm used to. And so that can cause problems there. And so it's really causing damage to those leaves that are photosynthesizing and basically supplying nutrients to the plant. So it's decreasing the health of the plant. And sometimes we also see the stalk starting to get a little bit weaker, a little sooner, making the plants potentially more susceptible to other diseases coming in. Southern rust itself isn't toxic, but it could give it an opportunity for other toxic fungi to come in, cause mycotoxins and things like that. So you see it, you should probably keep an eye out to look for other potential problematic fungi to come in.
Yeah. One of the things we've talked about on different podcasts and webinars that we've had is that sometimes when you're timing out harvest, you can look at that milk line, right? And you can maybe push that milk line down a little bit farther because then the grain is building up that starch component. Maybe we're sacrificing a little bit of fiber digestibility by letting it get a little bit dry, maybe outside the optimum, quote unquote, dry matter. But we're gaining some of that energy content back with starch, even if we're sacrificing a little bit of fiber digestibility. But every time we talk about that caveat, the caveat is always that is in healthy plants. And what I'm hearing from you and other people say is that healthy plants are kind of hard to find in Iowa right now. Is that, would you say that's accurate?
I would say that's pretty accurate, unless somebody was out there spraying early and consistently. There's not too many healthy plants. I was out today looking at some moisture earlier this morning in some of our corn plots, and we got southern rust. It is thick. Things are moving very quickly. And so for our field, we cannot go past half milk line if we wanted to ensile it properly. And so we're going to be out very soon getting those plots harvested, and we're out there monitoring every other day. And so, yeah, we're seeing it dry down very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So probably some good recommendations are to, really work closely with your agronomist or your nutritionist to prepare yourself. I know a lot of people do those kind of dry downs with corn silage to kind of see where they're at with moisture. And if they're experiencing some of these disease pressures, they may want to consider maybe testing that moisture a little bit earlier than they thought of, right? So just kind of getting in the field a little bit sooner than maybe you anticipated.
Yeah, I think it would be really good idea. And I really just highly suggest people getting in their fields, taking a look, seeing where they're at. Additionally, on top of that, we've had really high heat, and corn is based on growing degree days. And so we've had the growing units for corn to be progressing very quickly. We did the Midwest Regional Climate Center. They put out a growing degree days map for the Midwest. You can select your county, it'll give you an idea from planting to now or into when they suspect black layer to occur. And things are moving very fast. And if we're in corn silage, we don't want black layer to occur. So I was looking at a May 10th planting date at 108 corn maturity, and they suspect basically black layer to potentially be as early as September 7th. So things are moving. And May 10th is kind of a late planting date. Many people have probably already had their stuff in the field by then. So keeping an eye out of that corn progression on top of the southern rust and other pressures that have come in this year.
So when we're thinking about corn silage, we're thinking about like fermentation, optimum fermentation. We're thinking about digestibility. Is related to southern rust. Are those impacts on fermentation and digestibility just a result of a drier plant, or are there some other more direct? Is it a secondary thing with the drier plant, or are there some more direct impacts on the quality of that silage? And does that question make sense?
I'm going to attempt to answer it, and if I don't, you can let me know.
Okay.
So there's not a ton of research out there on exactly what happens with southern rust. But there's some of the data that shows is like they've seen 13% less digestible corn silage because of it. And then the drier corn silage, I think, is affecting fermentation because it's getting really hard to pack the silage. The silage just is so dry, you just don't have the moisture to pack it to exclude the oxygen. But I think some of the digestibility is also we're losing nutrients. Southern rust is a foliar disease, and so we're losing leaves earlier. And so we're losing that higher digestible component that also would probably have a lot more of our crude protein and things like that in it. So I think it's a combination of the drier plant, but also we're losing some of those nutrients as well, due to the fact that southern rust is a foliar disease. It's going to attack the leaves, and then it's going to basically impact that digestibility. We're going to lose those nutrients that are in the leaves.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of a combo of both would be my thought process on that, especially with what has been seen in southern rust.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So you said it makes them more susceptible to other diseases. What else should we be looking for? Are we talking about we're going to see mycotoxins this year? What should we need to be aware of?
So yeah, it's just like the healthier you are, the less likely you're to get sick. Same with the corn plant. And so now the corn plant's been a little bit weakened with this southern rust. And so we have the potential of getting mycotoxins coming in, or fungi that can cause mycotoxins, I should say. And so a lot of those kind of go under these ear rots and some of these stalk rots that we see. I'm blanking. Gibberella and like Fusarium, and then like Diplodia. Those ones are a little bit more on that like wetter conditions, and they can all kind of produce these mycotoxins that we've been talking about. And there's a version, most of these have a version that are ear rots that can also be, there can be stalk rots as well. And so keeping an eye out, checking your ears for some of these different types of growth. The Crop Protection Network has great information, great photos to really describe each of these and what to be looking for as you're starting to look at your fields, and keeping an eye out for these potential diseases that are outside of southern rust that could be kind of creeping in.
And so if we suspect that we might have some mycotoxins in our silage, best to take some samples and get those tested.
Yes.
As you're harvesting, and then maybe when you open up the bunker or the bag.
Yeah, you can get those tested. You can do it when you're opening up the bag. You can do it while you're harvesting. I think it's kind of combination of when you want to find out maybe a little bit, but the fermentation process, I think if you do have really bad southern rust, it could be good to be checking that anyways, to be checking for any other types of growth that you could be seeing just due to potentially poor fermentation issues. But yeah, you can get those tested. The Iowa State Vet Diagnostic Lab does testing on mycotoxins. So you could submit it to them. They have some great information on their website on that. But yeah, getting it tested could be really important if you're starting to see some of the symptoms of these other potential mycotoxins producers. And so just being aware of that potential impacts.
So we're heading into harvest. Sounds like pretty quickly. And it's kind of hard to believe that we're already here. And what as most years, once it starts happening, it happens fast. So
Yeah.
as dairy producers are heading into harvest, what are some of what's your top advice for them?
I'd say as you're heading into harvest, just getting out in your fields, checking to see what you have. It's really going to be important to ensure that you're making high quality product. Getting out there when you can, looking at it, checking that moisture, evaluating those potential toxicities that could be out there. All can be really valuable as you're getting ready to start chopping. All those things are going to play an impact. And so if you have a really bad dry spot out there, you should be aware of it. We've also, outside of southern rust, we've had tons of rain, and I've seen so many pockets of puddles where the corn's dead because it was just too wet for too long. And so if you have massive pockets like that, you need to be aware of it because that's going to be a really dry spot in your silage pile. That could be oxygen potential holding areas. So just being aware of what's in your field. Everybody keeps telling me corn looks great because it's been growing so much, but there's been a lot of other things happening. And so when you get in your fields and you start looking at it, you're going to get a better idea of what's going on.
All good points to end with there, Shelby, and appreciate that because as I drive along the roads, I do notice the fields look awesome, right? So, but like you said, it's good to get in there and really find out what's going on because looks can be deceiving, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But want to thank you for today's episode and for all the information that you shared here today, Shelby. And we're going to wrap it up here today with our episode here. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and share it with your fellow dairy professionals and friends and producers. For more resources, upcoming events, and expert support, visit our website at www.extension.iastate.edu/dairy team. And we want to thank our listeners today. And until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and keep making a difference in the dairy industry. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or combination inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.